So you want to start growing some vegetables. Well, where do you start? What do you grow? Well, you really need to look at what you want to eat and how you want to use your vegetables. Another thing you have to consider is where are you going to grow them? Are you going to grow them hydroponically or in the ground? So most of my vegetables I am going to try grow hydroponically. I'm going to grow them in grow towers and in a little greenhouse that I am going to build. So I've kind of separated the plants I'm going to grow into different categories. Tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers as my greenhouse vegetables. Carrots as an outdoor vegetable. And then I have a bunch of herbs that I plan to grow as well. And then lettuces and spinach. Those are my main plants that I'm planning to grow. Within these groups of plants, there's so many different varieties to choose from. So how do you go about choosing which variety to grow? What I did was I found a seed company, and that was Johnny Seeds. And they actually have a really nice catalog where you can kind of flip through and pick and choose what you want to grow based on the recommendations that are in there. And then you can decide which plants you like based on the description of the variety. So lettuces and spinach was an easy one for me because there's just something you use all the time. So I have a romaine lettuce, which is your typical for Caesar salads, also great on sandwiches. I have a spinach, which I like eating spinach fresh. I don't really like eating spinach cooked, but it's great on sandwiches and then salads. So I like to grow a lot of that. I'm planning to do that hydroponically in a grow tower. And then I have a mixed aquaponic lettuce. This will also be in a grow tower hydroponically, and that will be used for salads and sandwiches. One of the groups of plants that I'm planning to grow is herbs. Now this one is technically the least important as far as food value, but definitely looking like it's going to be the funnest. So I selected quite a few different herbs that we use in regular cooking, and I also looked for some herbs that are good for intercropping to attract good bugs and keep away bad bugs that are pests from the other plants that they will be attracted to. One of the herbs is sage, and this one I'm not sure where I'm going to plant it and grow it. There's a lot of other vegetables that actually don't like sage, so I'll have to see if this one just might not end up in the greenhouse. It might just end up outside, but it's a nice one for cooking as well. One of the other herbs I've selected is lemon balm, and lemon balm has a strong citrus flavor. I like to drink water with lemons in it, so I'm going to try add some leaves to this and see how that adds to the flavor of the water, since I don't like drinking plain water. It also is a deterrent for mosquitoes, and we definitely get our share of mosquitoes in the spring and early summer here. So I'm really hoping that this will keep them out of the greenhouse, and if needs be, I'll spread them around the yard and hopefully keep some of the mosquitoes away. I also have some Greek oregano. It's great in your cooking and in your dishes. So that one is just for food consumption. Also have common mint. Plan to put that in water for flavoring. Because aphids and spider mites do not like mint, I'm going to intercrop these with my tomatoes and cucumbers and peppers to hopefully deter some of the pests from attacking my other plants. Rosemary, this one was strictly for just cooking purposes. I'll end up adding it into dishes for cooking, just for flavor. I also have a downy mildew resistant basil variety, Prospera. It's supposed to do all right in hydroponic systems, so I am going to grow that and put it in the grow tower, mostly just for cooking and eating, great in soups and on other dishes. I also have German wintertime. Bees are attracted to thyme, the smell of it, so that's good. I want to attract the bees into my greenhouse for pollination, so that smell will help them be attracted in. Also great for cooking. Just don't overcook it, as the flavor disappears as the length of time increases as you cook it. Cilantro, also kind of known as coriander. This one is just a great herb for cooking and also has some properties that repel spider mites. So also planning to intercrop this in with my peppers and tomatoes and cucumbers, particularly cucumbers. I think they're very susceptible to spider mites, so hopefully we can keep away some of the spider mites. Parsley. I have Giant of Italy parsley. Parsley is just great for adding in for cooking in dishes. Just a great garnish, a little extra kick and flavor. I was planning on growing this hydroponically in a grow tower. Now, it does say not to plant it near lettuce, so I'm going to do a little experiment and see what it actually does and see if there's a negative effect to the lettuce for planting it nearby. So that'll be a little bit of an interesting experiment. I have some dill. It's called Teddy, and it's a small dill that's hopefully going to work in the grow tower. Dill you use a lot in canning and also in some cooking. Dill is also beneficial for keeping away aphids and spider mites, so this also will be intercropped in the lettuce, tomatoes, and cucumbers. So that's my herb selection. A lot of these packets, they're fairly cheap and they come with like 200 seeds, so I'm gonna have much more than I need for this year. Some of the vegetables that I plan to grow in the grow tower, chives are great because they have the flavor of onion, but you don't have to harvest the whole thing as you go. You can kind of take it piece by piece as you need it. I have some early variety carrots, and I'm planning to grow those outdoors. They really don't work hydroponically, but I love eating little baby carrots, so that I will have to grow outside of the greenhouse. I have two types of celery. One is a stalk celery, and like your typical celery in the store, you buy it as a bunch of stalks, and that's tango. And the other celery is a cutting celery, where you eat more of the leaves, which gives off a celery flavor but doesn't really have the celery stalks. So I've selected one type of cucumber. Cucumbers grow really fast and they need their space. So I've kind of only gone with one type of cucumber, and that's mini cucumbers. This variety is called Katrina. We love snacking on mini cucumbers, so that's why I went with a mini cucumber instead of a long English larger cucumber. This is also a vining cucumber, so this is going to go upwards in the greenhouse. All my plants need to go upward. I have limited space. If you take a 10 by 10 square foot space and you were to plant 3 plants of cucumber on a ground type, they will fill up your whole greenhouse. So I have a vining cucumber to go upward that are a little less leafy and produce more cucumbers per square foot. I've selected 2 types of peppers. I have a sweet bell pepper, it's called Sprinter. It's a red pepper. I know there's a lot of different varieties, and you have your yellows, your oranges, your purples that look like even maybe a little brown, some of them that are called chocolate. All your peppers, they start green. Green isn't a color, green is just an unripe pepper. Another pepper variety I have is Flaming Flare, and it's a mild hot pepper. And hoping to maybe do some pickling of these. I really like adding them onto sandwiches and might use them for salsa as well. I did get seed for one type of flower. It's lavender. My wife loves lavender, so that is one reason to grow it. Another reason is that it's very beneficial for attracting pollinators into the greenhouse. So growing that separately, not in the hydroponic system, just will be in some pots along the side just to attract some pollinators. One of the main crops in the greenhouse will be tomatoes. And I really like tomatoes. There's such a variety of different tomatoes out there. So I'm going to do a lot of experimenting with different varieties and methods of growing them. There are 2 main categories of tomatoes: determinate varieties and indeterminate varieties. Indeterminate, they can grow as long as possible, as long as they have food, water, and are healthy in sunlight. Determinate tomatoes are limited to height, and they grow to a certain height and then they produce all their tomatoes in one time. So I'm doing a bit of a comparison between indeterminate and determinate tomatoes to see what makes sense to grow in a backyard. In a commercial hothouse greenhouse, they will grow indeterminate varieties because they have a long season and can extend the life of the plants and get much more tomatoes per square foot with indeterminate variety. But for our backyard greenhouse, what is going to make the most sense? Indeterminate or determinate? So I have a few different types of varieties that I'm going to compare. One of the varieties is called Big Beef, and it is an indeterminate hybrid tomato. It's kind of meant for outdoor growing, not really designed as a hothouse greenhouse tomato, but I am going to grow it in my little greenhouse and see how it does. I'll also be grafting these onto a quite vigorous rootstock. It's called Shin Chong Gang. I don't think I'm saying that right, but that's how it looks to me. So I'll be comparing how these indeterminate variety tomatoes grow naturally with their own rootstock versus grafted onto a very vigorous rootstock. One of the determinate tomato varieties I'm planning to grow is called BHN 589. It doesn't have a nice name, just a kind of a serial number. It's supposed to be a large tomato that produces lots. So we'll see what kind of performance we get out of this tomato. This is a determinate variety tomato plant. I will be grafting these also onto my rootstock to see how they grow compared to their natural rootstock. This is a large tomato variety and supposed to be a high producer. So that will be great if we want to do some canning with lots of tomatoes at one time. I have an heirloom tomato variety called San Marzano. This is the classic tomato that is used in pizza sauces in Italy. One of the tomatoes that are meant for greenhouse production is Big Dina, and that I will be grafting also onto my rootstock to see how it grows in comparison to a determinate variety tomato in a short time. One of my favorite tomatoes for snacking is the small cherry tomatoes. So I have a variety called Sakura that I'm really looking forward to growing because we love eating cherry tomatoes. So those are my varieties that I'm all planning to grow. There is so many different varieties of tomatoes and vegetables. You don't have to really grow the same things. Just find something that you think will work and you want to try and follow the instructions that are given for that variety. I like starting things from seed because seeds are cheap. If you have a spot to start your plants early inside, you'll save a lot of money by starting things from seed, especially if you want to grow a lot of different varieties of vegetables. If you have to purchase these at a garden center, you might be spending $15 to $20 a plant, and a package of seeds, and the tomato varieties will come with at least 10 seeds, will be only like $5. So you can have far more plants for the same dollars if you start things from seed. It's good to grow a variety of different plants intercropped because intercropping has its benefits in that pests do not have the chance to go from one plant that they like to the next plant which is the same and spread rapidly throughout the greenhouse. If you have different plants in the way, they will jump as quick from one plant to the other, and having plants that they don't like the smell of will also deter them from landing on the plants they do like. Hit that subscribe button for regular updates on my growing adventures.